Torchy's eyes lit up. Okay, maybe that was a bad choice of words, but I could tell he was excited. Wow, a harmonica, he said, taking the gift. I've always wanted one. You sure? Yeah, I'm sure. My sister gave it to me last April for my birthday. I think it was her idea of a joke. I never learned to play it. I just threw it in my bag when I packed. I guess I threw it in for you. It was the perfect gift for him. As far as I could tell, it was pretty much fireproof except for the little reeds on the inside of each hole. And they tended to get pretty spitty, so they'd be safe as soon as he started playing. But you didn't even know me back then. I was about to say, maybe I'm psychic, but I caught myself. It wasn't a good time for that kind of joke. Torchy blew into the harmonica, producing a batch of random notes, and then pulled it away from his mouth and smiled. Great, did you recognize that? Give me a clue. It was "Oh, Susanna," he said. Right. Yeah, now I recognize it. Good job. I got the sinking feeling that I just created a monster. Too bad I can't play and sing at the same time. That would be cool. Yeah, too bad. Torchy spent the next hour or so happily making noises with the harmonica. Some of the notes even sort of resembled songs, if you didn't listen too closely. At least he wasn't angry with me anymore. The next day at breakfast, it seemed as if an invisible signal had been sent to the other kids. Maybe it was the sight of Torchy and me standing together in line. Anyhow, Cheater and Flinch and Lucky once again recognized my existence. Except for the layer of coolness that I knew would eventually melt, everything was headed back the way it had been before. Almost everything. As I sat down with them, I snuck a guilty look at Trash alone at his table. Maybe he expected me to sit with him. He glanced toward me. I thought about asking him to join us, but I just patched things up with the others. I didn't think it was the right time. I felt like a rat. I'd used him when I needed company, and now I was abandoning him. Maybe that should be my nickname, Martin the Rat. As rotten as I felt about Trash, the rottenness was diluted by grief. I was back from exile. Even though I decided to keep my mouth shut, I still kept my eyes open for anything unusual. By Monday, when I went to Mr. Briggs' class, I hadn't found any new suspects to add to my list. Maybe his lecture on scientific methods had made me look at things a little more carefully. If you want to see something badly enough, you're going to see it, even if it isn't there. All right, class, Mr. Briggs said once we had all gotten comfortable. Let's hear your ideas for experiments. Bloodbath spoke out. I figured I could decide to hit someone. If he stayed in the room, we'd know he didn't read my mind. He chuckled. Then he smashed one fist onto the floor. Very interesting, Mr. Briggs said, but I don't know how scientific that would be. The class discussed ideas. A couple of the kids had heard about Zener cards, even though they didn't know them by that name. I did because of the reading that I'd done. A standard set has five symbols. A square, a star, wavy lines, and a couple other things. There are 5 of each, so a deck has 25 cards. One person looks at a card, another person tries to read his mind and say what the card is or guess the card before anyone sees it. The rest of the class leaped onto the idea of the cards. Even though I knew more about the subject than anyone in the room, I kept my mouth shut. I really wanted to stay out of it, and I didn't want to give Mr. Briggs the satisfaction of thinking that he had gotten me involved. Okay, Mr. Briggs said when the discussion started to die down. We all seem to like the cards, but we still need to design the experiment. How should we do it? We have to switch around, Flinch said, so we get as many combinations of kids as possible. Okay, great, Mr. Briggs said. The more pairs we test, the more data we gather. It would take a long time if we ran every possible pairing, so we can't do that, but we can run tests for a day or two and see how many we can get done. But first, we have to make the cards. I'll bring in some supplies tomorrow and we can pitch in to assemble the decks. Then we can run tests on Wednesday and Thursday. Friday, we can examine the results. He walked to the blackboard and picked up where he'd left off on the regular lesson. I didn't have to be a mind reader to tell that most of the kids were excited about the experiment. Cheater, who was chattering away with Flinch, seemed as excited as everybody else. I guess he was sure the test would prove he didn't have any special talents. As it turned out, the one absolute thing the experiment proved was that I couldn't see into the future. All right, and then on the next page, we've got a picture of the cards, the minus sign, the plus sign, the square, star, and wavy lines.